Niners Twitter is divided. A lot of people feel like you just got to move up at all costs. Like, stop messing around, get the quarterback for the first time in 25 years, and work it out down the line. Other people say, it sounds good. There's just really no historical precedent of that kind of move working out for any team. Plus, this particular team, the Niners, doesn't have the assets to make a move like that. Only 2 picks right now in the top 100. There's arguments to be made on both sides. Where do you sit? Where do you fall, Vish?
As often,
down the middle.
Right down the middle. Yeah, okay. I fell right down the middle. So the premise is noble, right? It's the correct, idealistic, utopic kind of premise. We need a quarterback. If we get the quarterback, everything is solved, right? It's a sports cliche. If you give up anything to go get your quarterback, that makes sense. But I think what those guys are missing in this entire thing is that there's actually 32 teams in the NFL. And there's actually more than one team besides the San Francisco 49ers that are actually interested in a quarterback. And when you have only 2 picks in the top 100 and you're bereft of assets, you're not going to have the best deal. And the New York Jets, if they're willing to move from 2, aren't just going to say, well, Carolina, I know you're going to give us the 7th pick and a better second round pick and all of that. But no, we want to do this deal with the 49ers. So we're not going to take this deal from you. So
we're just 49er fans. We really hope that Kyle Shanahan,
The 49ers don't necessarily have the assets to pull off and get off in a bidding war. Number 2, the 2 recent examples, right? We got to look at the stages of the franchise. There's context to it, right? Where the Rams were, we can debate all day long whether the Rams and Eagles were successful. Let's not do that. Let's debate where they were as franchises. The St. Louis Rams had just accumulated large number of assets from the RG3 trade. At the time, they had turned those assets into 2 good corners in Tremaine Johnson and Janoris Jenkins, a middle linebacker that they believed in at the time in Alec Ogletree, Aaron Donald, Michael Brockers, and guess what? All these guys were on.
If you remember, when the Rams moved up for Goff, the analysis at the time was, well, this is something that they can do because Washington made the mistake 4 years earlier.
At some point, right, with them, it was at some point, well, you have all these assets. What are you going to do with them? You don't have a quarterback. So for them, it made sense, right? And people were like,
and it still didn't necessarily work out. They got to the Super Bowl. They didn't win it. And now look at them.
Right. I'm not going to get into whether it worked out, but just their stage of a franchise too. The Niners aren't in the stage where, they have a bunch of young players they just drafted on rookie contracts and they're a young growing team. That way, they have all their that stage was 2018 and 2019. Now Fred Warner's getting the bag. George Kittle's getting the bag. Jimmy Ward got the bag. Eric Armstead got paid. Nick Bosa's coming up. You got 1 more year there. Deebo Samuel's got 1 more year before you pay him. There's a lot of impending contracts, right? So with that, it's like you can't just say, well, if they trade everything, they can rebuild their roster on the fly. They can't because they have a lot of people to sign. So, I agree with the premise. I think the biggest problem is the Niners have mismanaged their assets totally in the last 3 years. There's one thing Trent Baalke did do well. It was he accumulated a lot of assets, and the Niners were able to pick 10 different players in 2017. Since then, their draft picks on who they draft has been 5. It's been 6. Last year, 4. And I think their allocation of positional value has just been kind of all over the place. They've spent 12 draft picks since 2017 on wide receivers. That makes no sense to me when you only spend 3 draft picks on cornerbacks.
And you're a run first.
If you value going outside in,
run first team.
12 different draft picks on wide receivers is crazy. It's crazy. It's nuts in 3 years, especially when you go 2 for Pettis. Pettis doesn't work out, so you go 2 for Sanders, and then you can't re-sign Sanders, and Pettis still doesn't work out, so you go 3 for Ayuk. As good as Ayuk is, that's the type of stuff where in 2024, Laken Tomlinson, or in 2022, you don't have Laken Tomlinson, you don't have a right guard. What are you going to do? How are you going to sign an interior O-lineman? Well, you could have drafted a 5th-round interior O-lineman, but we traded our 5th-round pick for Dante Pettis. We traded our 4th-round pick for Emmanuel Sanders. So these are the kinds of things that I think we haven't considered yet, because they've been able to cover up bad draft picks because they've had more draft picks. But this is where, you have to sign Fred Warner. So now when George Kittle gets hurt, maybe a Ross Dwelly walks. Do you have another tight end in there? Because Caden Smith, you cut. All these kinds of things are going to come into play. We're going to have to see it all. But regarding the quarterback issue, it's not a simple issue. It's not you either trade up or you don't. Because to trade up, you need to find a trade partner and you need to hope someone else doesn't outbid you.
Also, there's a lot more context here too. I mean, yeah, the idea is go get the best quarterback available. Go jump into the top 5. Get a real stud. But when you look back at the last 20, 25 years, there's no indication that drafting top 5 with a quarterback is guaranteed to work out. I mean, how many top 5 picks who were quarterbacks have won the Super Bowl the last 20 years? 2. And I'm not saying that if you have a quarterback top 5, you're screwed. It's just you don't have to do that. You know, Josh Allen was the 7th pick. Mahomes was the 10th pick. Roethlisberger was the 11th pick. There are good quarterbacks who were available mid-first round, late first round. You don't have to spend it all, trade it all for the guy who the media says is better than everyone else, because the media is wrong a lot.
Look. It's pretty simple. Like when you're drafting a quarterback, like you got to get a guy in the first round, right? Like I think we've all agreed with that. But drafting a quarterback in the top 5 and stuff, like you're usually not a good team. And the reason I brought it up earlier, the reason I suggest the Miami Dolphins take a quarterback this year is not because I think Tua Tagovailoa is this terrible player. I think he's a very ceiling player. I thought he was ceilinged when he came out of Alabama. He doesn't have a particularly large arm. He's not as athletic as people make him out to be.
He makes Trask look like John Elway, dude. Are you kidding? This guy pushes the ball. Okay, yeah, keep going.
He's got a bigger arm than Trask. He can spin it faster.
No, this guy pushes the ball. I think he can spin it harder. Keep going.
Okay, we don't need to debate that. But my point is, when you look at him, right, they're not going to be picking in the top 5 realistically again. And if you think you can get a guy with a higher ceiling than him, then hell yeah, move off of him and get the guy with the higher ceiling and develop him, because you have this great coach in Brian Flores and you have this young immediate roster. Well, the 49ers, I just, when I look at them, I don't understand what the plan can be at quarterback, right? Like I bring up Matthew Stafford, but there's a good chance, let's say in the case that Matthew Stafford goes, they're going to be outbid on Matthew Stafford. I mean, if the Lions are trading Matthew Stafford, then what are they looking for, Grant? They're looking for picks to rebuild their franchise. The Niners don't have high-level, high-value picks to just give away. And the other thing I'll say is you brought up the top 5 quarterback. Well, drafting a quarterback, drafting any player is a giant unknown, right? The draft is a giant unknown.
Like just because you're in the top 5 doesn't mean you have a better chance of not busting than if you draft in top 15.
Right. That's
what I'm
exactly
saying.
What I was.
Doesn't guarantee.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
It's the value chart unless you're totally convinced, because the 2 most talented physically quarterback. The 3 most talented quarterbacks physically in the NFL right now, one went 24th in Aaron Rodgers, one went 7th in Josh Allen, and one went 10th in Patrick Mahomes. And you go back and watch, you go and look at their physical talent now, and you say there's no way these guys should have gone where they went, but they did go where they went.
Favre was a 2nd round pick. There's so many examples like this. Yeah, Peyton Manning went number 1 and Eli went number 1, but there's so many examples of guys who just fell 10 spots, 20 spots for some arbitrary reason.
And it's utopic, right? It's utopic. Hey, we need a quarterback. We're going to go get the quarterback, and we're going to trade up and go get the quarterback.
Doesn't matter. We're going to reach. It doesn't matter.
Right. 2 first, 2 second, done. Okay. Yep. Okay. Let's say you do that. Let's say you do get the quarterback. Yes, he's going to cover up holes. But guess what? If Garoppolo, let's say Garoppolo, D Ford are gone. You get the quarterback, Garoppolo, D Ford are gone. Fred Warner, Trent Williams back. Okay? 2 for 2. Niners have 18 players signed through 2022. Well, what happens when you have 18 players signed through 22? You need depth. Why do you need depth? Because your best players don't play 16 games. That's why you need to be able to win 2 games with Ross Dwelly playing instead of your best player in George Kittle. You need Richie James and Kendrick Bourne to play good enough where you can win a game without Deebo Samuel. You need these types of things. Yes. And if you and with a quarterback, you can say, well, he's going to cover it up. Well, which rookie quarterback has come in and just covered up 10 flaws and won 10 games and gone to the playoffs? Andrew Luck, I remember, but Watson had DeAndre Hopkins and a roster with defensive superstars because Merciless was really good at the time. J.J. Watt was a defensive level player of the year level player at the time, and Jadeveon Clowney was excellent. That was 3 premier defensive players, and they had a team like that. The Chiefs
and Houston didn't have to trade 7 picks for Deshaun Watson. He fell to them. They didn't move up to 5. They were like, you know what? If he's there at 6, we'll get him. If not,
it's not simple, right? Again, that's why I brought up the philosopher example from the beginning, because it's so easy for us to poke at all the different flaws.
We wanted to get Tom Brady last year. That would have made things a lot easier.
But it's actually impossible for the 49ers. The 49ers are in an impossible position. Some way their roster is going to be lacking in a lot of different areas, and it's really unfortunate. I mean, you think it's some guy keeps saying that I'm wrong here, and it's a young, loaded roster. You think it's a young, loaded roster until you go to next year. The NFL is so year to year. That's what people don't understand, right? How good did the 49ers future look in 2013? How bad were they?
Kev saying you're too focused on the future. The point is, look at Philly. They made the trade for Wentz. It looked like it was working. They made it to the Super Bowl. They won. So, I mean, the trade didn't kill him then. Now, Wentz didn't win the Super Bowl, but the trade didn't prevent him from winning it. But look what happened to that team every year since. Every year since that trade, they've been a little bit worse. Because when you give away 7 picks, the ramifications are going to be, you're really going to feel them 3-4 years down the line.
Right. That's when you're not reloading your roster with picks. And he brings up Bosa on a rookie contract. Well, Bosa is now 1 injury away. And he's also 1 year away from you picking up his 5th-year option. And Joey Bosa didn't he get his extension after 3 years?
Right. Yes, he did.
So do you think Nick is going to want to do his extension after 4 or 5, or do you think he's going to want to do it after 3? Dre Greenlaw goes into year 3 next year. If you don't give him an extension next year, then you're stuck scrambling together cap, because if you don't do it next year, guess whose cap hit's going to be humongous next year? The year after that, Eric Armstead. So then how do you fit Dre Greenlaw within the cap? There's so many variables that we haven't considered. And those aren't the only players that they have to go, because now all these undrafted free agents that the 49ers have been keeping as restricted free agents are going to start to walk, whether it's next year or the year after that. And if you want to reload this roster for 1 year, well, then you can't do it with a rookie quarterback.
Also, these quarterbacks that you'd be trading up for are not sure things. We're talking about 1-year wonder from BYU and the next Ohio State quarterback. Those are the options. We're not talking Deshaun Watson here. We're not talking Matt Ryan or Phillip Rivers. It's a possibility you trade 6 picks, get Zach Wilson, and he's just a bust. We don't know. So,
and any draft pick is that way. Any draft pick is that way.
That's the whole point.
You would rather trade. What Grant's trying to say is that you would rather trade up 3 picks and go up 4 spots to draft him than trade up 6 and go up 10 spots to get him.
The Bills traded up 4 spots to get Allen. They think they gave up a 2nd-round pick. The Chiefs moved up like 17 spots, but it only cost them a 3rd and a 1st. When you have those top 5 picks are ridiculously expensive.
Jets gave up 3 seconds to go from 6 to 3. 3 seconds.
So let me ask you this. Yeah. There's just no precedent of doing this and really being smart. If you trade up and he's Deshaun Watson, even then, are you going to win a Super Bowl? Most likely you're not going to get Deshaun Watson in this trade up unless you really like Fields. Let's see what he does against Alabama first before we go crazy. But what I want to ask you is this.
I'm not even going to get into how much you like the quarterback, because that's a totally different conversation. Just from the 49ers perspective, can they go ahead?
Well, what I want to get back on topic. I want to ask you. We've made it clear what we don't think the Niners are going to do. We've made it clear why we don't think Matt Stafford is coming here and why we don't think they will or should make that massive trade up into the top 3. Okay, so what do you think, best guess, a little speculation, is the moves that they're going to make? How do you see this happening? That's the question. We don't know the answer.
Are you really going to ask me?
We don't know the answer, and everyone watching, don't hold Vish to this because I'm putting him on the spot and we don't know. But that's the question you guys want to know. It's the question on everyone's minds. What's the answer here?
Speak it into existence. Every time someone asks me this question, I'm going to say that Matthew Stafford will be the quarterback of the 49ers in 2021. Book it. I'm going to speak it into existence.
I admire that LeVar Ball, but given if that doesn't happen, What would be the other thing? What would be the other future you foresee?
I foresee them taking the quarterback, but I don't foresee them doing the large trade up. And you know, I
First
want to
round, second round?
reiterate. Yeah, I think it's going to be whoever Lance, whoever Jones, whoever Trask, whoever they value at that spot.
Say his
They
name.
might do it out of desperation. Oh, Desmond Ritter?
No, Trask. I didn't think you were going to say his name. That's right. Say it. Say it. Yeah, you're right.
No, that's why I said Ritter.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. But no, but I think they might reach a point of desperation and just take that guy. And I think the thing that people are missing, and when we keep bringing up the Niners not being ahead of assets and all of that, is that there's going to be more. If the Niners think that highly of Justin Fields or Zach Wilson, I guarantee you that they're not the only team that feels that way, right? It's not like they're going to be the one team that likes him. And do they have the best offer? Remember John Lynch, he said that they offered the same thing the Bears offered for Khalil Mack, and the Raiders took the Bears offer because they believe that Kyle Shanahan and Jimmy Garoppolo were due for better long-term success than the Chicago Bears. Pretty reasonable in my opinion. And number two, why would you want to trade Khalil Mack across the bay? I get that. But the thing is, why would the New York Jets, who have, I think, 5 picks in the top 100? I think it's 5 picks in the top 100. They have a lot of assets. Why would they give up the best possible? Why would they take the Niners offer? They have nothing to provide for the Niners. There's no benefit for them. Someone brought up Jimmy Garoppolo. Well, Bill Belichick's legacy looks better if Jimmy Garoppolo is successful. There's a totally different thing because he's trading a player. You're trading picks here. The Jets just want the best possible picks to help their team because guess what? If you have 10 picks in the top 60 and you go 50%, wow, you get 5 good players. If you have 2 picks in the top 60, you go 50%, you have 1 good player. It's statistics, simple probability, excuse me. So just like that, I just think there's no way that the Niners would have the best possible offer to go up to 2. Like I'm trying to wrap my head around this, but if Carolina's in the market, they're going to have a better offer, aren't they?
They don't have the picks. Vish, they have 2 picks in the top 100. It's not the move. This is not the NBA. In the NBA, yeah, you got to get your butt in that top 5 and get one of these special players because you're probably not going to find them at 15. In the NFL, there's no guarantee that quarterback you're taking at number 2 is any better than that quarterback you're taking at 15. There's just not.
Unless you're okay with some premium player on a cheap rookie deal getting moved with it. And I would assume it'd have to be some Deebo Samuel, like young star type player, which I would absolutely not do.
In 2018, how many people do you think in Buffalo were saying, you know what, we got to move from 11 to 2 and get Sam Darnold? You have to. We have to get Sam Darnold. Josh Allen, fine. He's not ready. He's not good. I want the best quarterback in the draft. Because back then there was a consensus that it was Darnold. A consensus.
And just reading back, they were 100% in on Josh Allen from the beginning. It was just where they were going to trade up to get him, and it just happened. He fell to 7, and they were able to get him. But do you know how many assets the Buffalo Bills had? They picked twice. They had 2 picks in the first round then, and I think they picked 8 players in that draft, and they traded up twice. They traded up once for Josh Allen, and they traded up once for Tremaine Edmonds, and they still had 8 players or 9 players picked in that draft. Because remember, previous year they were the ones who traded with Mahomes. They traded back a few times in that draft, but after they traded back with Mahomes, they got Trey White. They made the playoffs that year. And then 2017, after making the playoffs, they picked Josh Allen because they had a ton of assets, a ton of picks, and they had a couple expiring older contracts that they moved off of in like a LaShawn McCoy.
But the main point here that Niner fans need to remember is that the NFL is terrible at building a consensus of what the best quarterbacks are coming out every year. Every year they get it wrong. Every year. And there's like guys who go in the top 5 who end up being Sam Darnold. So it's not as simple as, you know what, you just move into that top 5, you take the quarterback there, and your roster's set, your franchise is set. No, it doesn't work that way. Football's not that simple.
That's a utopic mindset.
It's not that easy. It's hard.
Yeah, and for me, I don't even want to get into that because even the guy they take at 12 is still a total crapshoot because that's what the draft is.
That's right.
What I do want to stress and reiterate is that moving up in the draft, it's not as easy as just one team calls them up. We're going to give you 1-2s, 1-2, 1-1. That's all we have. take it. All right, we're gonna move up. That's not how this works.
We really want
You
your
have-
pick. Here's what we got. Yeah. It's also like, hey, instead of calling up for the number 2 pick, the Niners should just call up Kansas City and be like, hey, you guys have a great quarterback. We want him. I know you like Patrick Mahomes, but we really need him. So what's it going to take? It's going to take.
We only have 2 1s, but that's all we have. Just take it from us. It's not how this works. Even the Matthew Stafford thing, right? I'm just speaking it into existence. Let's say he's moving from Detroit. Are the Niners going to have the best possible offer for Matthew Stafford? What if Washington wants to make a move for him?
Right.
What if Denver wants to make a move?
Exactly. So the 2 things that Niner fans want are Stafford or the number 2 pick. So let's say Stafford is on the market. How do the Niners win that auction? They don't. And then let's say the number
Matthew Stafford says, I want to go to San Francisco.
And why would he do that? And then the number 2 pick, again, if the Jets want to auction that off, how do the Niners win that auction? How? With what?
I'm wondering. I'm actually wondering.
If somebody want to trade Sam Darnold and the Niners are cool with him, yeah, I mean, you can get Sam Darnold. There's probably not going to be a bidding war for him, but for the number 2 pick, there's going to be a bidding war for that.
Sorry, right. I mean, who knows if the Jets even move Sam Darnold? Because they might feel more comfortable because they picked Sam Darnold and feel more comfortable going forward with him because they're comfortable with who he is as a person, and Fields and Wilson are unknowns. Who knows?
New coach, new quarterback.
That's my only thing. If you're a new coach and new GM, you buy yourself another 2 years by not saving Sam Darnold and going.
Not about Sam Darnold.
It's about 2 extra years.
It's about you. When the Bears drafted, last point, and then we'll go. When the Bears drafted Trubisky, I was certain that it was John Fox's last attempt. Be like, hey, man, you can't fire me. I got a rookie quarterback. How you going to fire me with a rookie quarterback? And maybe there was something to that, but he got fired anyway. It didn't work out. I would have used that excuse. Man, come on. What do you expect? Rookie Trubisky. They got fired anyway.
Right. Well, I mean, ideally, I'm sure that, if you ask me, like, ideally, if the Niners had the ability to do it, I'd say 100% do it. If they're convicted on Justin Fields, they're convicted on Zach Wilson, who cares what I think? Who cares what anybody in the media thinks? If Kyle Shanahan believes it, do it. But it's doing it. I don't know how they're going to do it.
I have one more thing I got to say before we get off. And it's, forgive me, Vish. It's just that I was an English major and you've said it about 100 times and I got to say it.
Tell me.
Convicted means going to prison. To have conviction is what you mean. So you have tremendous conviction, but to say you're convicted means you definitely are guilty. So that's what I'm saying. Sorry.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I've been meaning to say it to you, but it's like, but no, you're not going to jail. You have conviction, but you're not convicted, Vish. I promise.
Oh, no. Wait. It is the state of being convinced. Merriam-Webster's dictionary.
Oh, I'm wrong. I'm wrong.
Huh. It's a strong persuasion or belief, the state of being convinced.
Hey, I apologize.
That's the second definition.
I take it back. Hey, when I checked it out, they didn't have a second definition. Back when I checked it out, it was only one definition, but I'm old. So
I forgive you.
I'm going off that 1972. All right, man. Sorry about that. I deserve that. We're like an hour and 40, and my voice hurts. This was our best one of all time. Great stuff. Thank you for being so flexible. I know it's like 8 o'clock over there or 7 or something. So
it's 7. But yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait to see how this offseason unfolds, man. This is going to be the most interesting offseason of all time.
Oh, yeah, and it's starting now. I mean, the solid news is going to drop any day. Then the Senior Bowl starts. Then the Combine's going to be great. Can't wait. Is there going to be a Combine this year, or is the COVID going to allow that to happen?
I think they haven't. The NFL hasn't put anything out, but I think there's going to be a Combine. But it's going to be so interesting because from the solid news, then we're going to be able to debate for a little while who the next defensive coordinator is. Then we're going to debate about whether they made the right hire. Then we'll get into all the draft stuff and the free agency. And the Niners
They're
have
looking
so
for
many
a quarterback this year. So much fun. Can't wait.
I know.
So much fun.
This is going to be awesome. I can't wait to I just can't wait to see.
And I feel so good for 49er fans that they're going to be able to root and cheer for Kyle Trask for the next 10, 15 years. I mean, it's really exciting stuff, guys. Look forward to it.
Is Kyle Trask what you're referring to Matthew Stafford as?
Yeah, exactly.